Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. Everyone, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So this is simply a summary of what are the technologies we have in the front end. Okay. So package managers, front end, JS frameworks, preprocessors, so things like that. Don't worry about it. Okay. So firstly, let's start with this slide. Okay, so we are going to be web developers. So we are going to learn JavaScript, and that means JavaScript only runs in client side those days. But now we also have Node.js with which it will be running in the server. So, however, the main purpose of JavaScript is to do something inside the browser. Okay, JavaScript do something inside the browser itself, not in the server. We have our own browser. So guys, are you clear with the concept of this client side and like server side? Do you guys know the difference between that, or otherwise I want to explain that as well? Any idea about it? Anybody having problem with understanding this client side and server side? So anyone can come up, like there's no issues. No one. Okay, so however, like I'll just give a small intro of things as a simple explanation. So just consider that you are having your own computer. Okay, so now you might have some photos in it. Okay, or some photos or videos, or you are having some multimedia in it. So what you would do is, okay, so you will be just going to the folder in which this images or this video is stored. Okay, and then you will be just opening it, viewing it. Okay, so now the problem is this photos and videos can be viewed inside only your computer. It cannot be accessed outside. Like for example, we have our own family members somewhere else, maybe in the same home, in the same another room, and they have their own laptop or mobile. They can't see it. Okay, so that's why we have internet. The purpose of internet is to share things everywhere throughout. Like if it is connected in internet, a computer can access anything from other computer which is connected to internet. Okay, so just consider that you are having this computer. This is your computer. Okay, so this computer is having some photos. So earlier only you can see it, but the other computer of your own home cannot see it. Okay, so now you want to see the photo from the other computer as well. So you put it in a common server. Okay, and this computer also can access that server via internet, and also this client can also access it via internet. So now the same content is being served from the server, and anyone who is connected to the internet can be seeing it. Okay, so we are having a common server, and to that server via internet how much ever clients can be connected. Okay, so the now photos are stored inside this server. Okay, now as I told you, when we have a computer here in your local, and if you're having that multimedia in your own computer, so you navigate to some folder. Okay, maybe like F drive, and inside my photos some folder like that, and then you will be taking that photo or seeing that video. Okay, but now we are having a server and we are connected to the internet. Okay, so even if you are browsing in your own client or in your own computer, you have some local address for it. For example, if you are browsing inside the F drive, you'd say like F slash photos slash my photos slash, there is some path for it where it is being stored inside your own computer. Okay, the same way, when this is being connected to the internet, there is some IP address assigned to this particular server. So we know to know like what is the IP address of that server first of all, to connect to that server. Okay, but you guys might wonder like why we don't use any IP address, right? You simply put some www.google.com. So the reason of it is because, so just consider that we call this google.com as domain name. Okay, so this domain name is nothing but a mask for the IP address. So if there is an IP address for Google like 101.20.83.77, it is difficult for humans to memorize it. Okay, so that's why we are giving something called www.google.com. So whenever you type this www.google.com, actually what happens is it go and see some domain, there's something called domain name servers and all. Okay, so it will be going there and will be getting the actual IP address of it. Okay, and after getting the IP address of it, it actually points to the actual server. So this is what happening. So the point is the IP address is what we are using to connect to the servers for each website, but it is difficult for us to memorize, and that's why we are masking it with some kind of domain name like vinesh.com or google.com or whatever it is. So when you type in this, it actually gets the IP address from the domain name server, and it points to that server. So that is the path. And inside that also we'll be having different files. For example, just consider that we'll have home.html, then inside a folder called about, you will have a file called about.html. So even then you will be having paths. For example, so as you see here, uh, okay, so you see gitlab.com. So just consider this URL. So we are having something called gitlab.com. This is actually pointing to some IP address, and that's why it is being connected to some server in the internet. And then inside that we are having some folder called sources, and then inside that we are having another folder or file called some app.sources. So completely there is a path. So with this path, we are able to access something which is not inside our computer, but inside in the internet in another computer, and we are connecting it through internet. Okay, did you guys get this concept of this domain names, how it is being connected to another computer? Are you getting an idea of it?
Yes.
Yeah, fine. So now I told you like okay, fine. Let's see what's the next slide. One just okay, fine. So now you know server and what are the clients. Okay, so now even though we have this in the server, okay, just consider like if you're having an image in your computer, so you will click on that image and you'll open it via one photo viewer, right? The same way if you're having some videos in your system, so you will be opening it via a video player, and based on the file type, we will be having different stuff like different softwares to view it. Okay, we also have PDF viewer. We have, if you have to open Microsoft Word, then we'll be using the Microsoft Word thing to open it. So there are different software to deal with each kind of files. Okay, but let's consider like if you're having a website, so just consider that if it is a Facebook, it is not mandatory like we are always viewing an image. We'll look into images, we'll also look into videos, we might look into PDF documents. There are several things that we have to access. So we cannot do it like whenever I need to go for an image, I take an image browser and open it, and when I need a video, I can't simply open a video browser. No, we have a single tool to access everything in the internet called a browser. So which means a browser should be able to support every kind of files, or at least a lot of things which are being commonly used like images, videos, PDF documents, okay, flash content. So these everything should be supported by the browser. Why? Because we are using only one software to access everything that is available in the internet. Okay, so that common powerful tool is what we call as browser. So with this browser we can access videos, images, PDF document, flash, any kind of stuff. Okay, so now you know what is a server, now you know what is a client, and do you know why we are having browser. So to understand the power of browser, let's do something else. So as I told you, like this is a browser, and this browser is having the power to open any, like we can open images, videos, anything, right? So now let me just try to open something. So just give control O. Okay, wait. So if you are inside a browser, now if you want to open a video or image in the browser, and this works for every browser. Okay, so normally if you want to open a website, you have to type in something here. Yeah, so you do something and then you will be getting it. So in case if you want to see your own photos that is inside in your computer, what you can do is come to a blank tab, just do control O. Okay, that will get the file explorer of yours. Okay, and then there you can just open anything, like for example, see, now I can, this is an image, so I just open it, you get it here. Okay, now I am using this browser as an image viewer, and you see the path here, right? It is inside users folder, we have Vinesh folder, desktop folder, and inside that you are having this file. So this is nothing, this will work even without internet, because I'm not trying to connect something outside the computer or my network. This is something inside my own computer, so we are having a protocol called file. Okay, so you are saying we are trying to access some local file, and it is inside the users folder, Vinesh folder, desktop folder, things like that. Okay, and it is an image file. This same way you can again do a control O, and if there is some videos, I think I don't have some videos. But if you're having any videos, you can open it. Now I'm just trying to open another image like this. Okay. So now if there is a video, you can even try that. Okay. You can even open a video here. You can open a PDF file here. Okay. You can just try it. So in case when you are seeing some film, you have the film in your hand, and if you are not able to install any video players, we can show the power of browser there. Just open that video in the browser and it will play for us. Fine. Okay, and as I told you, here we are using a protocol called file. Okay, but when we are trying to access something where really through the internet, we will be using the HTTP protocol. So that points to the actual internet, and if it is file, it means it is pointing to something which is inside our own system. Okay, got it? Any doubts there?
No, from my side.
Fine. Okay, and then so let's move to the next slide. So I am putting it here, right? So HTTP. So if you're trying to access something via HTTP via the browser, it goes to the internet and it will be connected to the server. And just for an idea, I'll also explain what is SEO. Okay, so SEO is nothing but search engine optimization. So what is the use of it is like, we have a lot of websites. We have like for example, we guys are going to have our own website. So chaitra.com, abhinaya.com, annapurna.com, rakesh.com, these are the several websites, and you are trying to write a lot of blogs in your website. And we guys are writing blogs in different, like different platforms or different things we are writing here. Okay, so now the thing is, someone want to search something. Okay, now for example, I want to know about India. So I don't know who have written a blog related to India. Okay, so I don't know, like, should I go to chaitra.com or should I go to abhinaya.com? I don't know. Okay, so that's why we are having search engine. In the internet there are a lot of websites, but we don't know what our content, like we are searching for something, like for example India, we don't know where exactly this particular uh, topic related to India is there. So that's why we have something called search engines. For example, Yahoo, Bing, Google, there are a lot of search engines. So what is the purpose of the search engines is like, so you type in something, so with that keyword it will be browsing the whole internet, like who is having this particular content, and they will be bringing up that site for us. So as I told you, now I am trying to search something called India. So now it is going to the internet, so I'm using the Google search engine now. So it is searching for the keyword India. So and it is getting all the list of websites which is having the topic India. So in Wikipedia it is there, Incredible India, there's a website there we have about India, things like that. Okay, so we actually don't know what exactly the URL of the website that we have to go in. So we give the keyword, the search engine parses the whole internet and bring you the result. So that is what we called as search engine. And what is optimization in it? So there are few steps that we have to take ourselves, because as I told you, there are a lot of websites. There are almost, so at least here 10 page, and we still have a lot of pages going on. Okay, but if your website is in 11th page, no one is going to see it. Okay, if you want to have your content to be read by the netizens, then what you have to do is you have to bring it in the first page of the search result. That is what we call a search engine optimization. So if you're writing a blog or something related to India, so when we are searching as India in the search engine, you have to create your website in such a way that search engine is able to parse your content and understand that okay, this is a valid site for showing as a result for India. So that is what we will be calling it as search engine optimization. Any doubts there?
No.
No. Okay. So that is what we call a search engine optimization. So I think I have explained everything here. So clients, internet, browser, search engine optimization, HTTP protocol. Cool, right? Any doubts there? Shall I move on?
Yes.
Yeah. So now coming to web browser. So I have already explained you about it. So we have Opera, Google Chrome, Safari, Mozilla Firefox, Internet Explorer, Microsoft Edge. Okay, and the web browser. So the common thing about web browser is like they are able to access, or they are able to show anything to us, like image or video, anything. Okay, and going deep with web browser. So as I told you, as I shown you, we are seeing an image like this. But will we consider this as a valid site if you simply show an image like this? No. Yeah, it has the power to show you an image, it has the power to show you an video, but simply when you open a website, like if you go to facebook.com, if you are showing something like this as an image, it doesn't work. Like it is not good, or there's no use of it simply showing an image like this. Okay, so that's why we, like if you go to facebook.com, you are seeing some design, you are seeing some scrolling content, and when you scroll through each content, you see heading like who is posting this photo, who is posting this video, and you are seeing things there, right? So for that, we need something, and that is what we call as HTML, whose structure, okay, like what should be shown where. Okay, so just come to this website. So now it is on website, and you see like we might see photos here. See, this is a photo, this is a photo, but simply we can't show this photo. We need a structure for it. Okay, we need a kind of design for it. So this structure designing, and there we also need some functionality. For example, I click on this, I see a pop-up where I can select another stuff. So there is an interaction. So if there is simply an image, you click on it, you drag on it, nothing would happen. Okay, so first of all, we need something like to make a structure out of it. Okay, and then we need to beautify it or design it in a way that is attractive to the user, the second thing. And we need certain functionalities, like clicking on this, you show this pop-up, or you type in a form and you simply click without typing in the form, and if you're trying to click on submit, you have to say like there's a validation error, you have to fill this up. So some functionalities or some responses that the browser is giving to us. Okay, so a structure, your design, and an action is to be provided by the browser for us now. And that's why we have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So what is the use of the HTML is to define the structure of the web page, what should be where, what is the content of it, that is defined by the HTML. And then we have the CSS, okay, who is giving the design, okay, who is giving this beautiful feeling of like, wow, this looks cool, this is a cool design, so something like that. Okay, so that is provided by the CSS. And the JavaScript is to provide the action. Okay, so the next slide explains that better. So HTML is simply the skeleton, and CSS gives the appearance, and JavaScript gives the action. Okay, this is a regular example that everyone used to show to understand what is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So, in a language perspective, a browser can understand only these three things. There are a lot of languages, and to correctly say, JavaScript is the only language. But we used to say this HTML as it's not a programming language. We used to call it as a markup language, and this is a cascading style sheet which gives the style to it. So these are not programming languages: HTML, CSS. JavaScript is the real programming language. But three, what would I mention? It three stuff or three item which the browser would understand is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So these are the three things a browser can understand, and the only language that a browser can understand is JavaScript. But when you go for server side, there are a lot of things like PHP, Python, .NET. There are a lot of languages with which we can write server side coding. But inside browser, it can only one and only language that browser can understand is JavaScript. Okay, and that is the reason why JavaScript is booming a lot today, because whatever backend technology you use, if you're trying to create a single page application, or if you're trying to follow the latest technology and trying to create a website, JavaScript is very much needed for any of the backend technology that you are using, because JavaScript is the only programming language that browser understands. Got it? Okay, so here we are going to learn this dynamism. So first of all, for that we know need to know little HTML and CSS. Only then we can make it work. So that's why I was asking you, and I believe like you guys know what is HTML and CSS. If not, I request you guys to learn it through W3 Schools, the website, and then if there is any doubt, you can ask me. I'm not going to take any class out of it, but if there is any doubts, you can ask me. Is that clear? Any doubts there?
No.
Okay,
No.
fine. So moving to the next one. So this is simply an example of this HTML. Okay. So a HTML is having its own structure. Okay. So it starts with a HTML tag, ends with a HTML tag. Inside that we'll have a head and body, and then we are having multiple tags like H1 tag, P tag, H2, H3, H4. We have italics, I tag. We have a lot of other things like for bringing up input elements. We have input type text, input type date, We have select boxes, check boxes, radio button, those things. So those are the common stuff we know in we need to know in HTML. Okay. So one more thing, if you guys don't know about this form designing in HTML, like for example, this input types I was saying, right? Input type text, those common stuff like the select boxes, radio buttons. If you guys don't have an idea on it, okay, no, I'm planning for something else. Let's do it this way, guys. There's a little homework for you. You can take 3 days time. Okay, you have to simply design a form with how much ever input elements that you can bring inside it. A simple HTML page in which you should have an input type text, should have an input type date, a select box, things like that, to just get an idea what we are like, to get our idea of what are the input elements we have and all. Okay, so just take this as an assignment. So you can take 3 days time. That is today, Wednesday. No, Thursday. Okay, Thursday when we are starting the class, you have to show me like a form with all these HTML elements. Okay, so that is the main thing that we need to move forward, because we will be mostly working on forms. So we need to know all the input elements and the basic the rule of it. There are some rules like select box should be like this and the option should be like this. If it is a text area, the content should be put in this way place, not in the actual value at, but there are a few things there. Okay, so you have to do this as an assignment. Is that fine?
Yes.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay, and then moving on to CSS. So now you get an idea of HTML. This is HTML, an example code of HTML, and then we have CSS. So in the CSS, we are saying like what are the color, how much width it should have, or the things like basic stuff like to design it. Okay, so here we have margin padding, we have the fonts family, we are giving some color to all the H elements and P elements and A elements. We have a H1 tag, and in the H1 tag we are having some specific things like the style should be italics and it should be bold. Okay, so CSS, and then now we are going to learn a little more deep about the CSS. Okay, so the first advancement that we are bringing up, or the problem that we had with the CSS, is earlier we will be seeing all the website in the desktop itself. Okay, we'll see it in the computer, mobile phone, and used for browsing the web. Okay, it was only desktop which we are using for it. Okay, so we need is a single design. But these days, we are so fond of this mobile tablets, and we are trying to access these websites even in mobiles and tablets of different resolutions. Okay, it's not about the same width. Each device have their own resolution. Okay, so earlier what we used to do is the website is like this itself, and when you come to a mobile, you used to move it left to right. We should move it top to bottom, that's fine. But as this website is is having so much width and it's not fitting in the mobile, what we will be doing is we used to move it left to right. Okay, oh sorry. Okay, and I'm just trying to like, do you know any website? mm, Mostly some government website will be of that kind. Let me see. So this is a kind of old design. Let me see how it looks in the mobile. So you can easily check that how it will look into the mobile. You can just right click and inspect, and you can use this icon. See, this is not fitting properly. This is now totally minimized, right? Okay, it is not scrollable, but still you can't see anything if the website is like this. Okay, so what they're doing is they're having the same design in the desktop as well as inside the mobile. This is not viewable, this is not proper. Okay, this is one of the problem that we were having with CSS when we are dealing with multiple devices. So this is with the oldest technology. So in the oldest technology, it might zoom in or zoom out like this, or otherwise we used to scroll it this way. Okay, let me see, like if I take something else. See, the design is broken. So there are a lot of issues coming up. See, the design is completely broken. So if you're taking it in mobile, it will look like this. So this is one of the problem. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to find a way such that it looks proper in desktop. Also, we need the same content, but in the tablet and mobile, it should be little different. That is, it should be arranged in such a way that it is looking proper in the mobile devices also. Okay, so if you see this, see here you're having an yellow box and an orange box. Okay, the same yellow box and orange box is in the tablet as well, but the size is little bit reduced. But when it comes to the mobile, the yellow is having the full width and the orange is coming below it. It is being arranged properly. Okay, now you don't want to scroll it to the left and right. You can simply scroll down and you can see the content. Okay, this is what we call as responsive design. Okay, and when this responsive design concept is coming in, so for this we use something called media queries and all. Okay, so you can just refer it. Okay, what is media queries, how they are using it. Okay, there are something called media queries in CSS, and if you guys see media query and you are not getting a big idea about it, definitely you can ask me, like request me, like why don't we have a session on this media queries. That is up to you. Okay, you have to come up, or otherwise we will be just going with the JavaScript related stuff. Okay, so now when talking about responsive design, the problem again we are facing is the same logic or same kind of stuff is to be repeated for every website we write, because the same concept, like this yellow box, orange box, mostly for all website we are having a header like this, so it should come down in a mobile device. This is a common logic, but we have to write it for every website we create. Okay, and that takes too much of time. So there came up some of the frameworks. So I think Chaitra was saying she knows Bootstrap, right? So Bootstrap is one of the CSS framework which helps us to write these common things in a better way. Okay, so we don't want to write much CSS, but we can bring this responsive design easily with some of the classes that the Bootstrap is providing. So we have Bootstrap, Semantic UI, Materialize, Foundation. So these are some of the CSS frameworks that we are having it as a popular stuff. Like the main thing is Bootstrap. So mostly, I think probably 70 or 80% of websites today in the world is made of Bootstrap, because this is the most widely used CSS framework in the world. Okay, at least in India. Okay, and this Bootstrap is provided by Twitter. So they were the founder of this, and I'm not having a big detail about it, but yes, I think Twitter is the founder of this Bootstrap. So they gave it as an open source. So open source in the sense it can be used by us freely, and we can also contribute to it. Got it? So this is CSS frameworks, and another problem with CSS is like we cannot, as I told you, CSS is not a programming language. Okay, so if you have to write CSS, we have to write everything step by step by step. Okay, we cannot dynamically bring out some CSS and all. Okay, there are a lot of issues that we have with our normal CSS, and we have something called CSS preprocessors. So what is the use of this preprocessors is we can dynamically programmatically bring CSS, generate CSS basically. So that is we call the CSS preprocessors. So these are the things that you have to Google and find, like what is the common or what is the main reason why are we using these kind of things, like for example CSS, media queries, CSS preprocessors. So these are few things that we have to know. Okay, so you can Google it. If you're not understanding it, please definitely ask me. Okay, so you can also note down, like we need to learn about media queries, CSS preprocessors, and common CSS stuffs. Yeah, and when we go to Angular, we will be mostly using SCSS, which is a CSS preprocessors. Okay, but SCSS cannot be understood directly by the browser. As I told you, browser can only understand HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, so new technologies like this are simply generating. So there is a technology called the CSS preprocessor which generates CSS for us. The same way for the JavaScript, we have something called TypeScript that also will be generating JavaScript for us. We used to write in TypeScript, which is a different kind of we used to call it as a subset of JavaScript, something like that. Okay, so that is also a language which would generate JavaScript, and there are reasons for it. I will be coming to it. Okay, so but these are common terms we should be aware of. CSS preprocessor, there are a few examples for it, like SCSS, less, something like that. And then we have preprocessors for JavaScript as well, like JavaScript, I mean TypeScript, Babel. There are things like that. Okay, okay, then that by that way we are wrapping up CSS. Now coming to JavaScript. Okay, and JavaScript, there are a lot of problems. Okay, so let's see what are the problems and how they are trying to solve each things. Okay, so first problem. So now you see an example of JavaScript, and actually this is jQuery. We'll come to it. Okay, fine, let's start with JavaScript. So JavaScript, as I told you, JavaScript is a language that is understandable by browser, and every website is using it. But now the problem comes, the browser used by the user is not simply Google Chrome, or it is not simply Mozilla. Our website that we have written might be used in Google Chrome, even in Mozilla, even in, like Internet Explorer or any kind of browser. But if you're writing a server side language, okay, if you're writing some server side code, you definitely know where this is going to run, because it will be running in the server that you're putting. There is no different environments for it. It is always going to run in the server which you are using. Okay, but when it comes to JavaScript, every code you write in JavaScript is not promised like you are going to run in this version of Google Chrome. The version differs, the platform differs, the browser itself will also differ. Okay, so now the problem is, even if it differs, what is the actual problem is? For example, just consider that there is some kind of like there's a new function coming up in JavaScript. Okay, and just consider the version 80 of Google Chrome only supports it. I mean, after 80, version 80. But you can't say like every person who are using your browser, your website, is having Google Chrome, which is having a version which is greater than 80. We cannot assure it. Okay, but if you are doing it in a server side, it is you can solve this problem easily by upgrading your own server. It is just your server. But when you come from browser, there is difficulties, because everyone can have any kind of browser. Okay, but if you want to use a new stuff, then there will be a problem, because some users might not be upgrading their browser. And the second problem is, so this is one problem related to versions. Okay, another one problem, there is some difference in JavaScript when it is being consumed by Google Chrome and if it is being used by Mozilla Internet Explorer. Few codes are there. Okay, there are few syntaxes which differs for each of the browsers. I think I have an example for it. One sec. Oh, I don't have it. I have it. So you can just consider this example. So in the Mozilla, so this is to add an event listener. If there is some button clicked, we have to do something. Okay, so we have it as add event listener for Mozilla. So if you are in Mozilla, you have to write add event listener. But if it is something else like Internet Explorer, then we have to use the method called attach event. Okay, so see how complex the code is. So if it is add event listener, they are checking like if this particular browser is having a method called add event listener, then use it, which means it is Mozilla. And if it is having attach event, then please use this. So there are few complexities that we are facing with this. Okay, so this is one of the other problems. So JavaScript is having different syntaxes for different browsers. Okay, so to solve this problem, we have jQuery. So jQuery, in the sense, it is a library, okay, written on top of JavaScript. So what it does is it is giving several utilities to us, one of which is this one. Okay, so we don't want to worry like which browser it is. We simply write dot click and do something. So this is the code that we will be using in jQuery. So inside the jQuery, they will be handling like if we are calling this click function, inside the jQuery, they will be finding which browser it is, which version it is, will this be available for this particular browser, and they will be dynamically bringing out like which function it should use. So instead of writing this much code, we simply write this. Okay, so this problem was easily solved by jQuery. So when jQuery is the most popular library which initially came on top of JavaScript to help us. Okay, so initially when we are going to the field, or when we are starting coding, we are using pure JavaScript, and the biggest problem is this Internet Explorer. We design a site and then we give it to the tester or we give it to the client. They used to use this Internet Explorer and come and say like, oh, this is not working, this is not working, and then we will be trying like what's wrong, and then we find that okay, this function is not supported in Internet Explorer. So we have to write all this code earlier. Okay, we have to write this and then bring up it to be working in other browsers as well, because normally we used to use Google Chrome, which is very developer friendly. Okay, so Internet Explorer wasn't checked by us, and there were problems coming up, and we solve it this way. And then this jQuery comes. Someone introduced us this jQuery, and this is handling it in a better way. So we simply write this, and we now no need to check it in other browsers because it is automatically handled by jQuery. Okay, so these are the things. Yeah. So cross-browser compatibility. This was the one I was talking about. Okay, so jQuery solved it in a better way. Okay, and it is lightweight, so write less and do more. So we don't want to do much things. And this is not only use of it. There are a lot of other utilities provided by jQuery. I was just saying an example like cross-browser compatibility will be assured by jQuery. Okay, and see, as I told you, jQuery, there are many other use for it also. So if you are writing JavaScript and you have to hide a text box, you have to write it like this: document dot get element by ID, the ID of the text box, and the dot style dot display equal to trans. So you have to write this much code in JavaScript. But if you are coming to jQuery, it will be like this. This is so simple. So when we were writing everything in JavaScript, it was a big deal. And when jQuery was introduced,
your voice is not clear actually.
Is it?
Your voice is not clear.
One sec, one sec. The power is back. I'll just one sec. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So the power was already back. I wasn't realizing it. Yeah, cool. Okay, so where were we? Yeah, so this is another example how jQuery was helping JavaScript developers to do things in a better way or in an easier way. Okay, again, if you have to like create a h1 tag with my text, so we have to create a h1 tag in JavaScript which is having a content called my text. Okay, so in JavaScript we have to write this much code. So we have to create an element like h1, then inside that we need something called my text, and you have to put it somewhere in the DOM. Okay, I'll tell you what is DOM. I'm coming to it. So this is JavaScript code, but it can be easily written by jQuery in this simple way. Okay, so let me just simply summarize. So when we are working as JavaScript developer, the first problem we got is cross-browser compatibility, because JavaScript is to be written in different way in different browsers. Okay, second thing, through JavaScript writing code is little complex because it is the syntax were a little harder to understand, or it is longer. Okay, but then the jQuery also helped it to write it in a smaller way or in a simpler way. Okay, so these were a few of the uses that we got out of jQuery, and that was a big relief for JavaScript de- developers. Okay, and then when I told you DOM, let me come to the DOM again. DOM is simply but the document object model, which is that whole HTML content. We used to call that as DOM. Okay, so what would be the structure of DOM? It will be having a root element which is HTML. When you know Java, I mean HTML, you should know this. So we have a root element HTML, then we have head, and we have something inside head, and we'll have body, and we'll have other stuffs inside this. So these things we used to call as DOM. Okay, so what is the real use of JavaScript when it was initially coming into this programming is, if we need to alter something inside the DOM, we used to use JavaScript. For example, see, as I already shown you an example here, so we have this particular web page. Okay, now I am clicking this and a new content is coming out here. Okay, so we are altering the existing DOM in such a way that it is giving you something out of it. Okay, a new content is being inserted into this now. Okay, so this is a kind of action, this is a kind of interaction the browser is giving to us. So to do these things, we use JavaScript first. So we used to call this as DOM manipulation or changes in the DOM. Or for example, this is one, and now we are having we are trying to get into a form. Okay, just consider that. Okay, now I am trying to click on create project. Okay, see, it is saying like please fill this field. So this is what we called as validation. So here they are simply showing it in a pop-up like this. Otherwise, sometimes you used to see a red color text here like this field is required. So it differs in each website. That's based on the developers. So if you are seeing something here below this text box, that means you are trying to insert something new inside the existing DOM. So to do that, we need actually JavaScript. So the first and foremost use of JavaScript initially when it was coming into our thing is like to do something inside the DOM, to alter it or to remove some content or to bring some pop-ups. So these kind of interactions, for only these kind of interactions we were using JavaScript. That was before nearly a decade, like 10 years back. Now it is being used like anything. Like there is a lot of things being built up with JavaScript now, but initially it started with this. Okay. Okay, so when it was simply used by this, used for these kind of thing, then how now it is being used for many things? Like it is not simply now for simply showing this pop-up and all, but even the core logics of most of the websites, most things are being written inside JavaScript. How it was being ever, like how it came to this level, we are going to see now. Okay, so the reason why it became like this is the introduction of Ajax. Okay, so Ajax, what is Ajax is we used to call it as asynchronous JavaScript and XML. Okay, the full format of it is this. So you are having a server, we are having a HTML page. Okay, so for this I would say an example of Page Nation. Okay, let me take if I can show you some example for it. Okay, um, issues. Okay, see now we are having this website. Okay, there is some content here. Okay, so just consider this as a table. It is listing few things, and see here we are having something called pagination. So when you click on this, it takes us to the next page. See, this is of the old technology. They are just still using the old stuff. This is not through Ajax. So if you see the URL, we are saying page 2. So initially when you are in the first page, there is nothing else. By default it takes us the first page, so it is in the first page. When you click on the second page, what happens is we are getting something in the URL like it is page 2, and the whole page was reloaded. This you might see this being reloading. So if you I'm just clicking on this, you will be seeing this button being rotating. See, it is now loading, and it is now loaded, and now it is again the other button. Okay, so the problem with this approach is, you see guys, the only things was changing is just this content, right? This things in the table was changed. The other things like this sidebar, this header, nothing is changed. Okay, that is going to be still the same. But what we do is we click on it, we reload the whole page, which means this content, everything is being reloaded. Okay, and that is how we are doing these things initially. Okay, then someone come up with an idea like, why should we reload everything? This is already got from the server, we already having it in the browser. Why should we also reload this? Why don't we simply reload this content which is related to the pagination, which is this table listing? The only purpose of we are reloading the page now is to simply change this content, which is this list content, to the second page content. When you click on 3, we are still having this as same, we need to only change this. Okay, so someone is thinking up an idea, why should we reload this page? Why don't we bring up a technology where this page stays still here, but we can communicate to the server and only get this data and we can populate here. So still we are going to manipulate the DOM. Okay, we are just going to remove all this content in the DOM, and we are bringing up the new content and we are putting it here. So still we are doing the manipulation, so we need JavaScript. So JavaScript now needs to remove all this content which is of the page 1, and how to replace it with something of page 2, or now we are in the page 3, so we need to replace it with something in the page 3. Okay, so we need JavaScript for this. But other problem is, to bring it to the next page, we also need the content of it. So this content is actually in the server. Okay, so now JavaScript is having another duty. Earlier it was simply changing the content because it had the content with us. For example, if you are clicking on this, we don't want to go to the server to take this content, we can store this in the JavaScript itself. But these content we cannot store everything, like every pages we cannot store in the JavaScript. It is already in the server, we have to get the things dynamically from the server itself. Okay, so JavaScript have to now communicate to the server without even this page is being reloaded, which means I have to say JavaScript. What I'm going to say is the JavaScript is, I'm clicking on this 2. So I say, when clicking on this 2, please ask the server the data for it. Okay, this data for the page 2. Okay, so the JavaScript get the content from the server, and then now it is having the content, it will be replacing it here. So the code I am writing is, when I click on the page 2, trigger an Ajax call or communicate with the server and get the content for this page 2, replace this content and put my content that I have now received from the server. So this is what I'm talking with JavaScript. This is the code I'm going to write. So that is what we call as Ajax. So simply to get the to manipulate the DOM with like replacing contents. Now it is having an additional duty to get it from the server. Okay, and that is what we call as Ajax. Okay, so I would show you an example for Ajax. So I'm just taking our own website or our own application. So I'll just explain you this Ajax technology. Guys, this is taking too long, like 10 more minutes you can be here, right? No problem, right? 10 more minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, now I am going to take you the same pagination example. This is done in Angular. Okay, this particular application is done in Angular. So now I am taking the client list. So sorry guys, this is in German, but still we just need to know about the functionalities, right? No problem. Oh, this is not having pagination. Wait. Let me take a pagination. Oh shit. Wait guys, let me take the staging. Okay. Oh no, this is staging data. This was the old one. Okay, so now here I'm just going to clients. Okay, now you see a client list here. Okay, so this is having 46 entries, so the pagination should work. So in
Dinesh,
yes,
your screen isn't visible to me.
isn't visible
No,
now.
it was visible. Now it is not visible.
Let me stop and share again.
Okay.
Now do you see it? எடுத்தாச்சு charger எடுப்பியா?
No.
Can you see it now?
No.
Others, do you see it?
Yeah.
Maybe your internet problem. Rakesh, can you see it? Chaitra?
Yeah, I can.
Chaitra?
Yes, I can.
Abhinay, don't worry, like I am recording it, I might show you something.
Okay.
Okay, so now as you guys see, we are having the same concept of pagination. Okay, earlier when you are clicking on the next page, it was actually reloading, which means this button was reloading, which means it is again going to the server and bringing up everything. Okay, now we are using the Ajax technology for this pagination. So what happens is, you can take the developer tools. To take the developer tools, you can just right click and you can take inspect. Okay, and there now you have to check the Ajax request, so you have to take the network. So if you're taking the network tab, there are a few things like to filter it with JS, CSS, images, and XHR means it is the Ajax request. So I'm just taking the XHR request now. So now what I say with JavaScript is, on clicking this page is not being reloaded. I'm telling it to communicate to the server to get the next content. Now this is starting from 234. We have to get another content which starts from something else. We'll be seeing it here with like another number now. Okay, so now I am clicking it. So now an Ajax call triggers. Now you can see the network here. Okay, the page is not reloaded, it is still there, but you see there is another API going. We call it as an API. So this is how the JavaScript now communicated with the server. So as a response of it, you are getting a JSON data. Okay, so what is JSON data is a common like format with which we interchange data from the server and our own system, I mean the browser. Okay, so here we are having a key called data, and inside that you are having another data, another set of 10 data for the next page. Okay, now you see it is not the previous one, it is the second page. Now it is 29, it's starting from 29. Now I click on the next one, so next Ajax request goes. Okay, now you get the other content. Okay, so now every time I click on this, you see this is not being reloaded, the page is not reloaded, but there goes an Ajax request, and then things were coming here. Okay, so this was the first advancement we are bringing out with JavaScript. So when you are having a website during pagination, I don't want to reload the complete page. Instead of that, I can just communicate with the server without even reloading the page in the background, that is this, and then we can get the content and populate it in the DOM. Okay, so we are trying to utilize JavaScript in a better way. We have went a step ahead. Okay, so now you understand this, right? Any doubts here? Anybody?
No.
Okay, so first advancement is to bring up things for only for the pagination. Now next they are thinking like, okay, now we did it for the pagination, but even now when you click on another page, still we are reloading the page. But that is also not needed, because this header, this side menu is going to be the same. Only thing changes this box. Okay, this is going to be dynamically changed. So again they are thinking like, why should we change every content of this? Okay, this can be here itself. Why don't we bring Ajax and we bring the other page and put this content, just replace this content and put the dashboard content here. Okay, so that is what we call a single page application. Okay, we'll be having a single page which have this header, which have the side menu, and it is a single page itself. And when you click on another page, the same page is still there, but this content will be replaced. So now for example, I'm going to the next URL. Okay, we still see the URL here, but the page will not reload. So Angular will be handling it. So even if it's going to the next page, the page will not be reloaded, but it see what is the URL here in the browser, and it triggers the corresponding Ajax function to get the actual data. Okay, so now I'm clicking on client time tracking. This is actually a next page, but clicking on it will not reload it. Instead, there are some Ajax call going and we are getting the next page. This is client tracking list, but the page is same. The page is never reloaded. Now I'm going to the next page. You see, it is not reloaded, but still you are getting the next content. Okay, and this concept is what we called as single page applications. Okay, so without the help of a framework like Angular and all, doing this routing, so basically what we have done is a kind of routing. Okay, in this routing, what we are talking with JavaScript is, guy, don't refresh the page. If there's a change in the URL, you still stay there, get the content through Ajax, and please please populate it in this particular area. So that is what we are saying with JavaScript. So to write this in JavaScript, we have to write a lot of codes and all. Okay, so initially when we are doing this single page application without any framework, things were complex because we have to write all this every time. But then came these kind of frameworks which made these things easier. So with certain configurations, we can easily bring this up. Okay, so the latest trend or technology is what we call a single page application. When it comes to single page application, our JavaScript plays a major role. Got it? And that is so the initiator for that is this Ajax technology. So Ajax technology is a technology without even reloading the page, you can get content from the server in the background. That is what we call as Ajax. So we use the technology to bring the content of the pagination first, and then we also tried now, and we are doing like we are bringing the whole page via Ajax, and we are populating it in the DOM. Okay, that is what we are calling as single page application. Okay, so we are having the client, so the request is going to the server, so this is happening in the background itself. So if it is a HTML, we bring the HTML, and if there is some JSON data for data changing, so you will be using this. So this is what we call a single page application. So now mostly every website that we are being creating is single page application. So what is the use of it? So we are talking this much, so what is the use of it? So when we are trying to reload the whole page, it takes time. So that's content which is already here is being reloaded again and again from the server. But now we are keeping this content as it is. We are just changing this. So it will not take much time. It will be really faster. Okay, things are coming really faster. Or otherwise, the whole stuff have to be reloaded. So that way, so the main aim is to we have to bring things very faster and we have to perform in a better way. So we are bringing certain ideas and constantly thinking of like how we can improve it. And now we are at the end of single page application where we bring up contents which is really needed by the user at that time. We are not bringing everything every time. If there is already those content, we are keeping it as it is. We are not changing it. We are just getting the content which really need for that time from the server and we are bringing it up here. Okay, so that is single page application, and these things we don't want. And yeah, okay, so here we can see the Angular JS frameworks, which are libraries which are being popular here: Angular, React, Vue, Ember, Polymer. Okay, so here I know Angular and React, so we'll be learning Angular here. Okay, so these three things are popular. Vue also is a popular stuff. So this is officially supported by some PHP framework like Laravel. They are mostly using this Vue. And Angular, as you know, it is very popular. It is created by Google, and React is created by Facebook, and Vue is created by one of the Google's ex-employee. I think Evan Yu, his name. Yeah. And then we have package managers. So what is package? This is simple. Like we might need lot of libraries, lot of stuff that we will be using for each of the project. Okay, but we really went, so that is a big deal for us, because whenever we are starting a new project, we have to download all those content from different websites, different libraries. If you're using, we have to download it from different places and we have to put it in our project, and that takes much time. So but now package managers, how they help to resolve this problem is we can create a page, we can create a JSON file. So I'll just show you and show you that. um okay, and you also have to use install VS Code. Okay, that is the editor that we'll be using. I forgot that. So VS Code is also something that you have to install. Package.json. Okay, see this example. We are saying like what are the libraries we need. Okay, so this is a React Native project. So I say I need this library, React Native community slash master view. I need this Expo. I need React DOM. I need Babel core. So these are the dependencies I have. So I just make this file and just give like a command called npm install. You enter, all these libraries will be automatically installed or will be downloaded and will be in a folder called node modules. Okay, to have this only I was saying that you need to install node, right? So only if you install node, you'll like with node itself you'll be getting this npm. Okay, you'll be getting both. Okay, and then we will be able to do this thing very easily. So that is what we called as package manager. Okay, so what they do is they will be having all these libraries in this npm repository. So you write everything here and you npm install, all these libraries will be automatically be downloaded in your project, or otherwise you have to go to each website and we have to download all this thing, and that is a big problem. Okay, so that is the use of package manager. And then yeah, that's it. Okay, so any doubt in this, guys? Anyone? Guys, any doubt?
No.
No. Chaitra?
No, then which editor we need to use?
VS Code, that is what I was saying, like this one, Visual Studio Code.
Okay.
So you can download it as VS Code. You can search it as VS Code and you'll be getting it. So we need VS Code, we need Node to be installed, we need JIT to be installed, and one more thing is what I was saying. Other one thing is
Angular CLI.
Angular CLI. Okay, so those things you have to install. Okay. So I think now you have a little idea of like how JavaScript is now being used widely, how it was earlier, and with the introduction of Ajax, how it is now being used widely, like for doing all the websites, right? So from tomorrow onwards we will learn JavaScript, like what are the power of it, what are the, like JavaScript is really a different language from other backend language, like we have PHP, .NET, Python. So their concept and the concept here is a little different. Okay, we have closures, we have higher order functions, we have like a prototypal kind of concept. The other languages are not having this prototype concept. JavaScript is having prototype concept, and it really makes it different, and that is the same reason why people simply hate JavaScript, mostly the backend developers. But to support them, we brought another kind of language called TypeScript, which actually bring out JavaScript. So we'll be seeing that one by one. Don't worry. But from tomorrow, we'll be starting to learn real JavaScript. Okay. So if there is any doubt here, you can ask. Plus, you have to create that form, and if there is any doubt in that HTML form creations, you have to ask me. So Thursday. Okay. Fine, right? If there is no other doubt, then let's wrap up for today. We'll join tomorrow again at 8.
Okay.
Okay, fine. Then thank you guys. So tomorrow also you can use the same link and you can just join. We'll be using the same link every day. Okay.
Okay, fine.
Okay, fine. Okay, guys. Then thank you. Catch you tomorrow. Bye bye.
Thank you, Anil. Bye.
Bye.